Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. We've got a lot to discuss. You have Donald Trump's fascist takeover of the Metropolitan Police Department in Washington, D.C., and Trump says he's going to be rolling that out to other cities just as he's done in Los Angeles. You've got Donald Trump announcing he is meeting with Putin in Alaska, but he keeps on referring to Alaska as Russia. We're learning about that meeting that Steve Witkoff had with Putin, where Witkoff returned and was telling everybody Putin's going to give up land and swap land with Ukraine. And then under cross-examination from our European allies, or perhaps former European allies, based on the way Donald Trump's treated them, Witkoff admitted that Putin actually never said that, and that Putin actually said that he wanted an additional 25% of the land in Donetsk and Zaporizhia that Ukraine controls, heavily fortified areas that if you gave to Putin, Putin would just use to make advances that he wasn't able to militarily. We can talk about how Zelensky has reached out to all of his coalition of the willing allies, which does not include the United States, but includes Europe, so that Europe is defending Ukraine and saying that no way, no how can the United States just give pieces of Ukraine or chunks of Ukraine to Vladimir Putin without Ukraine being involved. There's a lot to discuss. Why don't we start off?
Could you imagine, before you get started, could you imagine if Joe Biden made the mistake of calling Russia Alaska or Alaska Russia? Could you just imagine what our conversation right now would be like? It's truly amazing that the difference in terms of how one person gets treated versus another, it really, I just find it astonishing, and I wanted to just pose that.
I agree. This is not just messing up a name in a random context, right? Though, I mean, and we all, I'm sure if you go back in video, we all make those mistakes, right? But this is establishing a meeting, the most profound foreign policy meeting in recent American history, and then referring in that situation, consistently referring to Alaska as part of Russia. At the same time, your main envoy to Russia, who everybody's been saying is not qualified to be doing this, comes back and provides a set of facts that form the premise of a meeting with Putin and Trump on American soil, which Trump is referring to as Russian soil, that's based on Ukraine totally surrendering, but that Witkoff claimed Putin was going to give land over. And it took the Europeans to cross-examine Witkoff at Chevening, at this manor in Kent in the United Kingdom, to figure out what the hell is actually going on here. Every day, Cohen, to that point, Trump engages in my opinion, 50 to 100 impeachable offenses and or 25th Amendment related conduct on any given day, or his regime does. I mean, just take this story that gets passing attention, and it's undisputed. J.D. Vance taking a kayaking trip because he's been on constant vacations this summer in a river in Ohio. He demands the Army Corps of Engineers raise the river so that he'll have better kayaking conditions. So the Army Corps of Engineers goes in there. They change the flow of the river for J.D. Vance's vacation. Now, to your point, imagine Kamala Harris called the Army Corps of Engineers, raise the river for me so me and Doug can enjoy our vacation together. It would be on Fox 24/7, and she would probably have to, honestly, she'd probably have to resign over that. But you have J.D. Vance shutting down Disneyland so that he and his family can go and take vacation.
I'm not even talking about this dichotomy between Republican and Democrat. I'm talking about, imagine if hypothetically Joe Biden made this mistake. I'm not even saying what the Republicans would be screaming. I'm talking about what our fellow Democrats would be screaming. Oh, he's got dementia. He's unfit for the presidency. I mean, the Democrats were as terrible to Joe Biden as the Republicans were. And I find it just disconcerting in the fact that we need, as a group, to start coalescing around one another. If there is a Democrat who is running for office, you need to coalesce around that individual. If there is a network like Midas Touch Network, you need to coalesce around it. Why? Because unless we stick together, GOP, MAGA plus GOP, they are sticking together. When Caroline Leavitt can go up on the presser and make a comment that, oh, well, he was saying Russia. He didn't say Ukraine, and lie. When you hear people like Lindsey Graham bending the knee and saying, yeah, that's not what he said. He was talking about the Russian president as opposed to Alaska. They make up these crazy things. They are sticking together through thick or thin. They are sticking together through lie or truth, mostly lie. They are together and united. We, on the other hand, for whatever the reason may be, trying to protect our democratic republic, trying to protect the future of this country, trying to be able to give our children, grandchildren, and future generations a better America than what we inherited, we attack each other for anything and everything. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, and look, I think that I'm okay with us having debates and trying to get to the best solutions. But ultimately, to your point, Cohen, in the search sometimes for perfection, which is oftentimes impossible to find, you see too frequently just a kind of total unilateral disarmament and surrender to MAGA. And then you hear commentators give you the hypotheticals. Well, it would have been just as bad. No, it really wouldn't.
No, it really wouldn't.
It really wouldn't have been. And you just look at just take today. This is what happened in the past 12 hours so far, less. Donald Trump's White House posts worldwide calls for President Trump to receive Nobel Peace Prize, and then he lists Pakistan, Rwanda, Netanyahu of Israel, the dictator of Azerbaijan, Armenia, and this is who he says are calling for Donald Trump to get the Nobel Peace Prize. Dude, you're the president. I hate to say this because it bothers me, but you're the president of the United States of America. Why are you begging for a cosign from Pakistan to give you the Nobel Peace Prize? Like really, Pakistan, which like harbored bin Laden, you're going to co-sign Netanyahu giving you the Nobel Peace Prize with the atrocities happening in Gaza right now? That's what you're out there begging for, a freaking Nobel Peace Prize. So you've got that. Then you've got the data coming in this morning as well, that core inflation right now is surging 3.1% year over year. This is bad. Directionally, it is going up, up, up. You can see the chart. This is heading in the direction of 4-5%. And one of the things we've seen so far is that, yes, some companies have tried to eat as much of the tariffs as they can without going bankrupt, but they're passing on a lot of costs to consumers. But we're seeing some of the highest bankruptcy rates and filings in the last 15 to 20 years because companies have tried, but they're collapsing. So now other companies are like, we can't do this anymore. We've already passed on some costs to consumers. The floodgates are open. So I think a lot of you are seeing that if you go item by item as well, when it comes to clothing, when it comes to utility gas services, when it comes to groceries, the rate of inflation there is significantly higher than the 3.1%, but 71 large U.S. companies went bankrupt in July. That's the highest since the pandemic. Now, how much times are you going to hear me reporting on news where it's the highest time since the pandemic or the worst time since the pandemic, depending on what the stats are? This follows 66 bankruptcies and 64 bankruptcies in June and May, respectively. Year to date, 446 large bankruptcies. That's the most in 15 years. So, what's Donald Trump's new Bureau of Labor Statistics Commissioner, E.J. Antoni, saying? This is the new guy who Donald Trump has put in to replace the person who he fired because Trump didn't like the accurate jobs report data. Well, E.J. Antoni is proposing that we just suspend all the jobs reports, just not publish the economic data. Now, Cohen, you predicted this is the way it's going. This is what happens in authoritarian regimes. Frankly, even some authoritarian regimes report the data, but right now it's don't show the data. What does this remind you of? Don't do the testing. If you don't do the testing, you don't know the COVID cases. If you don't show the jobs report and inflation data, then we just don't get to talk about it. But what's really happening on the streets, people know this. If you're out there going back to school shopping right now, or your grandkids are going back to school shopping, you know the things are 15 to 20% more expensive. And if you wait, it's going to get more expensive.
Ben, I actually wrote about it at 4:30 this morning on my Substack, which, by the way, you could find on the Midas Touch Network later today. This one is entitled "The Real Victims of Trump's Tariffs." We could all lie to ourselves and say, oh, yeah, well, Trump says that the tariffs are paid for and borne by the country of origin, China, which he gave 90 days. Again, an extension, Pakistan, India, South Korea, wherever, Mexico, with his tariff nonsense. Let me be very, very clear. It does not take, as I write in my Substack, it does not take a Harvard MBA or graduate degree to understand how this tariff system works and why everybody isn't screaming the same three-word message that I constantly say everywhere that I go. Tariffs are taxes. Consumers pay tariffs. I want to be really clear on this. This is so simple. Again, you don't have to be a Harvard graduate to understand it. The country of origin will pay a tax. That is factually accurate. What is inaccurate is everything that this administration is saying they're after. So they then sell it to the wholesale. They sell it to the distributor. All right. The distributor is buying it at an increased price because, let me be crystal clear, the country of origin is not eating the loss. They are not digging into their profit margin. So they end up selling it to the supplier, who then tax that money on as they then sell it to the wholesaler. The wholesaler then tax on that same cost plus, so that they could continue to make their profit margin to the supplier. The supplier then turns in taxes, takes the additional tariff tax, and he then increases it as he sells it to, again, the wholesaler, meaning the big box store, who then ultimately sells it to the consumer, who is paying everything all the way from the beginning of the line to it ultimately ending up in their pocket. And that is why, as Ben appropriately, accurately, honestly, and truthfully is saying, if you have gone shopping for back to school, if you go to your grocery store, if you went to your hardware store, or you went to the clothing store, you are paying more right now for less. All right. You are getting less quantity for a higher price. I joke in my Substack and I say, basically, no matter where you go, it's like when you get the receipt, you look at it, it looks like another mortgage payment, because that's how much things are increasing. And why people are fighting this, why the Democrats, why we are not messaging this properly. They're giving us a golden gift. Message it properly and know that it is going to be the independents, the silent majority, who are going to, like the rest of us, feel it in their pocket. It's going to be members of the GOP, not MAGA, the GOP, who are going to feel it in their pocket. And they will ultimately, during the midterms, turn around and say, is this what I want? If the answer is yes, God bless you. Go vote. go vote for the person that's going to keep tariffing you so that you ultimately have nothing left in your pocket. Or you're going to want to have a tripartite system where all three branches of government are involved in our day-to-day management of this country.
Yeah, look, we can have intelligent data-based conversations about tariffs and say, well, why are we really beginning to see the acceleration of the impact of tariffs being passed on to consumers now? Why didn't that hit in February or March? But it should always be rooted in data, right? Because the reality is that Trump's fake Liberation Day, which is really Liquidation Day, that was April 2nd. He then tacoed a number of deadlines. Trump chickens out. The tariffs are now settling into about an 18% to 22% kind of across the board sales tax on consumers, because that's basically the median of where these tariffs net out when you focus on all of them. I think it's okay to say, because it's accurate, as the importers are dealing with the companies abroad that are exporting to the United States, and they're trying to figure out the price. There's going to be some tension and elasticity and a fight, right? I mean, if I'm a company here in the United States, I'm going to reach out to my factory wherever and say, hey, I can't afford that based on the tariffs. You've got to lower it. Or I'm going to go to another factory. But that shtick runs out eventually, right? When all of the other factories,
because the second factory, it costs them the same exact amount.
Well, and that's
if I can add one thing to your scenario, Ben, the reason why the tariffs are only beginning to really be felt now, this extra tax, is simply because when Trump first announced what he was going to do regarding that April drop dead date, the very first one, what the big box stores, the Amazons, the Walmarts, the Krogers, the Amazons, what they did, they have a lot of money. They bought a lot of supply that we saw in the data. They bought a ton of merchandise and stored it away so that their hope was that Trump would stop this tariff stupidity and that this thing would all just be a bad day. So they took cash out of hand and they ended up buying items that they know are big sellers or are regular sellers, right? Now, all of a sudden, that tariff came in, let's say in April or May. Well, whatever you bought before has already been sold. So now the new stuff is coming in at the higher price. That's the reality. I mean, I have friends at the dock. I have friends in the business, and they are turning around and telling me exactly how things are working and exactly why the prices now are so much more than they were, say, 1 month ago.
That's why when Donald Trump is saying, I'm building a golden ballroom, we need it, I need it. When Donald Trump's talking about the marble that he's putting in to the White House, as Donald Trump's out there posting videos of himself golfing from weeks ago in Aberdeen and saying that he won club championships, and then claiming that inflation has been eliminated, that he solved everything, that everything is at all-time lows. And the American people, start to say, I mean, they should have been saying this a while ago. With any Ponzi scheme, it runs its course, and they're going, you're just defrauding me. You're just lying to me now. So he comes up with the gimmicks, whether it's a Doge dividend check. I'm going to give you $5,000 of Doge dividend checks. That's Ponzi scheme one. Now we're collecting so much tariff money that we're going to give you tariff rebate checks. Bullshit. He then talks about, I'm going to do prescription drug prices based on a most favored nations provision. He said this in May. He said that the pharmaceutical costs,
off.
He said the pharmaceutical costs in the United States would immediately, he said this, go back and look at his post, would immediately become the same amount as the lowest price that pharmaceutical company is selling abroad. So if they sold in Pakistan for $3, let's say for the medication, in America, it would become $3. That was his promise. Obviously a lie. You all know that. Pharmaceuticals are, even if you're on Medicare Part D, Medicaid, it's becoming far more expensive right now because one, drug prices are going up. But two, one of the things we're seeing is where people were like, I can't afford, even if I'm getting my drugs from Medicare or I can't afford it. So people are saying, I'm buying from Canada or I'm buying from Europe. And now with the tariffs, the price on those are getting more expensive. So buying the drugs overseas, like blood thinner medication, is becoming more expensive as well. So we're seeing all of that.
Do you know by how much? Do you know
Significant.
by how much?
Between 18 and whatever the tariff, 18 to
Over
25.
20, it's a 20% higher. I'm on that medication. So I'm telling you, it's 20% higher.
And then Donald Trump goes yesterday, and we'll play this clip in a little bit, where he then starts mocking California for considering low-income housing in some of the areas that are rebuilding from the fires. Trump's out there saying low-income housing. Could you believe that in the Palisades, they're thinking about low-income housing? It's just like, what do you need to fully get? Let me play the clip just so you can hear how grossed out Trump is about the concept of low-income housing. And mind you, at least what the media would tell you about his campaign, and we knew this wasn't the case from watching his campaign, it was about affordability of housing, affordability of groceries. Like to low-income people, he hates you. Like, he's grossed out and he hates you.
Which is funny because that's where his entire fortune really came from, the Mitchellamas that his father built, going back into, the 50s and 60s.
Low-income housing.
Yep.
And then behind the scenes, him and his father were hit with all those civil rights cases for how they would talk about people living in some of the low-income housing. And now he's out there saying low-income, ugh. Here, play this clip.
And now they're talking about this is among the most beautiful areas in the country. Now they're talking about putting low-income housing there. Can you believe this? I love low-income housing. I made money with low-income housing. I built low-income housing. I know more about low-income housing and luxury housing. I know about everything real estate. They want to replace some of those homes with low-income housing. They haven't gotten their permits yet.
Right. The way he says it is that he's revolted by that concept. And that's why, though, when you see a campaign like Mamdani resonating in Manhattan, when you see a campaign, when you see Bernie in West Virginia, when you see AOC speaking to people, one of the most important issues out there, and I'll say it over and over and over and over again, is affordability. While America is on paper, or was on paper, still is right now, the wealthiest nation in the world, the fact that people who are working jobs are priced out of homes, can't buy homes, can't rent homes, live paycheck to paycheck, that is unacceptable. And Donald Trump is out there promising these gimmicks, Doge rebate checks and tariff rebate checks and Doge dividends and all of these things, defrauding them, in my opinion, while screwing them over. And we know with the disastrous budget bill, it's the biggest transfer of wealth in American history from low income to high income. The CBO, Michael Cohen, just came out with their most recent report about the disastrous budget bill. Now, people may be saying, shouldn't they come out with that report before Congress votes? Yeah, that's normally how it works. But the MAGA Republicans and Trump did not want the data, because what's the theme here? If you don't do the testing, if you don't look at the data, you can claim, oh, I think it's going to be great. Why? I just think Donald told us it's going to be great. Well, what happens now with the budget bill on day, right away, basically, that low income Americans take $1,200 from their annual income, which is a major portion of their income, and they hand it over to people making above $450,000 a year and higher, who get $13,000 back. So you're literally you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, but Paul is a wealthy person. And
The problem with Peter is that Peter's broke. All right.
Broke.
Peter is standing in front, for example, of the deli or of the Dunkin' Donuts, thinking, oh my God, how nice would a cup of coffee and maybe a donut taste right now? But I can't afford it because I just gave the guy who's cruising down the street in the Mercedes, I just gave him my $1,200. The notion that this is really taking place in the United States of America over this big, beautiful bill that, for God's sakes, they just shoveled right through the House and then through the Senate and then back to the House again to pass it, simply ignoring what the repercussions once again to their constituents are. It is beyond. It's beyond imaginable. And yet, my friends, this is the part that really gets me going here. And yet, there's still even a question as to whether or not Democrats are going to be successful in the midterm elections. And I say to myself, how? How? When everything that's coming from that side is flawed. It's shit. It's shit rolled up in just a sack of shit. And then they're feeding it to you as if this is the greatest thing on the planet. And people are still buying it. When you start to even see Trump's favorability ratings, when we all know that everything is upside down right now, and his favorability ratings are actually on par, if not slightly better than that of the way that people see the Democratic Party, I'm saying to myself, what the hell do we need to do in order to get through to these people, to explain to them your entire life is upside down and it's only going to get worse? What do we need to explain to them to bring them back into the fold?
This is what you need to explain to them. I'm fighting for you. I hear you. I'm going to come into your town and your city, and I'm going to listen to you. And I'm going to hear you out on these issues, and I am going to fight for you. And I'm not going to let you be left behind. Look, people in general are not out there connecting with human beings who are struggling and who are suffering. And it's why I highlight on this channel what Bernie Sanders is doing in West Virginia, North Carolina. As he traveled the country, he was in Utah, because he's listening to people in red states or purple states, and he's hearing them out. When you look at the data of Mamdani in certain boroughs, and AOC as well, you'll see that a lot of Trump voters support them. And you're wondering, how is this happening? Well, to me, Trump is speaking to them, but defrauding them. He's very good at identifying people's vulnerabilities and weaknesses and preying on that. I think that's his magic skill, that he's able to do that. But if you take a look at those problems that they're having, and we go back to affordability, and you speak to them and you fight for them and you're consistent with them, and you don't speak like a politician, you speak like a human being to them about what it is they're going through, you can earn their trust. It's why, when you, to your point, Cohen, when you look at a general favorability question of political parties, you'll see Democrats underwater significantly. However, when you look at a generic ballot of the midterms, the same poll will show you Democrats up 7, Democrats up 8. That's not to get overconfident.
By the way, and you should not be overconfident, because 7 is nothing.
But those two data points tell me something. That tells me that the people are livid about the current environment that exists, but they're also very upset that Democrats and all politicians are not meeting the moment and fighting for them like their life depends on it, because people's lives depend on what's happening right now. This isn't a game. People don't want to see when, the presidents are at an event. People don't want to see all of them pretending that they're like friends with each other or acting like they're buddy with Donald Trump. People don't want to see, how are you? No. People don't want to see that, because people know there's a fascist takeover. We don't want to see you spending time and enjoying time with the stakes. The stakes are too high right now. People don't want to see, Democrats saying, right now in this moment, basically, trying to find, think, okay, well, I think that there's going to be a solution right here with these far right wing. Maybe they're going to come around. People just, in my view, say, how are you fighting for me? Don't waver. Are you truly with me? Stop equivocating on issues like LGBTQ rights or trans rights. Like support human beings always. Powerfully, strongly. Stop being pulled in and sucked into right-wing ecosystems and talk about how you're helping me get healthcare. Universal healthcare is great. So why do we equivocate that everybody should have healthcare for free? Everybody should have healthcare for free. That makes you socialist or communist? Nah. When Donald Trump's out there attacking the CEOs of companies he doesn't like, making one-off deals, that's central planning. When Donald Trump's attacking universities and lawyers, that's cultural revolution stuff. We should have free education, free healthcare, and we should be proud to talk about these things.
He is literally out there now turning around saying who he wants to be the CEO of Intel. Mm-hmm. There is no boundary that Donald Trump will not cross. And I'm going to tell you something. There are too many Americans out there that see this type of, well, I don't like what he's doing, but at least he's doing something. At least he's doing something. What are the Democrats doing? They're standing up behind a podium for 30 hours, giving a speech. Nobody wants to be lectured to. Nobody cares that you could stay up for 30 hours reading Green Eggs and Ham. Ben is 100% right. What are you doing to help me so that I could afford bread and insulin, that I don't have to worry about where I'm going to be living or what I'm going to be eating or whether I'm going to be able to afford my medication? I mean, we are so out of control. And as a party, Democrats, we're not messaging well enough. And you know how you know that to be true, Ben? Join me on this one. Ben, you know how you know that that's true? When you start seeing the number of Americans who actually favor Vladimir Putin, imagine, over the Democratic Party. That's the scary stuff that you and I, every single day on this network, on our various different shows that we talk about. I'm not talking simply just to talk into a microphone, to talk into the internet. I'm trying to reach people so that you understand. I have, unlike many people, firsthand experience on that side, on this side, and incarcerated as a result. And I'm telling you, I see things crystal freaking clearly. And I know the game plan that they're doing. And the game plan does not include any of us. It does not include us in this incredible experiment called democracy. What it does is it makes us into servants. And that's why you're seeing now Trump wanting to literally militarize not just the police force, the entire country, reducing the age from 21 to 18 to be an ICE agent. Seriously? There's a game plan that the Heritage Foundation has put forth. We all know it. We talked about it here. Ben and I, ad nauseum, talked about Project 2025. Unfortunately, every day, they're just turning another page. It's just another page for them. Another page. Well, at the end of the year, you're not on page one anymore, my friends. They always say the road to the mile starts with the first foot. Well, to get to the end of the book, you got to start with the first page. That's what they're doing.
No doubt about it. I want to talk about, though, what MAGA Republicans are doing, what they are pushing. And one of the things that they're pushing is now, yes, prices are going up, but we deserve the suffering. To make America great, you need to suffer, and we will suffer together, and then we'll get through this together. But this is a test of patriotism. That's what MAGA Republican leaders are out there saying. There's nothing that they won't say. They'll throw everything out there. They don't need to test it. It doesn't matter to them because at the end of the day, the behavior is more emblematic of a cult. And to your point, Cohen, the broader country doesn't find Putin more favorable than Democrats. But amongst the MAGA group, if you were to ask them who's a bigger enemy, a Trump supporter, who's a bigger enemy, they would tell you that Nancy Pelosi or whoever is a bigger enemy than Putin, because Trump and Fox have turned the idea that because this is what you do in fascist regimes, especially when you're unable to deliver for the people, you need your enemies. So your enemies are migrants, your enemies are Democrats, and especially black-led cities. So you go after MAGA's Chicago, you go after Baltimore, you go after Washington, D.C., you go after Los Angeles. Truth be damned, right? I mean, the facts are red states, red cities, far, far, far higher violent crime rates, poverty, problems in red states by far. Blue states subsidize the red states. Red states don't exist without California, without Massachusetts, without Illinois. They don't exist, red states. I mean, Texas is the ultimate grifter state. And no offense. I mean, well, it's, I guess offense the way it's run by the MAGA Republicans there. They steal from the federal government billions and billions and billions where California gives. And yet Texas is out there wanting to give a lecture about fiscal responsibility. Your state goes bankrupt if it ain't for California. And meanwhile, they try to keep the stronghold by engaging in unlawful gerrymandering. All right, first quick break of the show. When we come back, you give the two-finger salute. We've got a lot more to discuss on Political Beatdown. A reminder, subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel at The Michael Cohen Show. You're almost at 500,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
Michael
we're
Cohen.
getting there slowly but surely, my friend.
Subscribe to the audio podcast. A lot of good videos on YouTube recently by you also. I've been noticing some videos that have taken off. Also, subscribe to his audio podcast, Mea Culpa, and patreon.com/Political Beatdown. We'll be right back after our first quick break of the show.
Look, I don't drink often, mostly because I like to remember what I said and more what I did. But when I do want to unwind, I'm not trying to wake up feeling like a guy who got hit by a truck, or worse, like I actually agreed to something important. And that's why I've been taking Sol's out-of-office gummies. They give me that relaxed, happy buzz, kind of like a night out minus the hangover, sugar, or the questionable decisions I regret on Instagram. Sol's made from organic, U.S.-grown hemp, vegan, gluten-free, and low in sugar. And you could dial in your dose, whether you want a little kick or to pretend you're sophisticated enough to microdose. And if gummies aren't your vibe, they've got this out-of-office drink, alcohol-free and perfect for those nights when you want to chill without waking up asking, why did I text my ex? I mean, Sol's the kind of easy wellness I can get behind, because honestly, life's complicated enough without adding a hangover. So my friends, go right now, and my audience, you will get 30% off the whole order. Go to getsol.com and use code BEAT, B-E-A-T. That's getsol, G-E-T-S-O-U-L.com, promo code BEAT for your 30% off. I mean, try it. Your brain, I guess in your phone's sent folder, will thank you. You ever try launching a podcast with zero experience? Well, let me tell you something. It's like being tossed into a cage match with a grizzly bear, blindfolded, wearing clown shoes. Because when I started Political Beatdown with Ben, I thought, come on, man, how hard can this be? Script writing, logos, production schedules, ad deals, and don't even get me started on the tech setup. I mean, I feel like I was decoding a damn matrix. Now, if only I had Shopify when I launched this beast. Shopify is the platform behind millions of businesses across the globe, responsible for a whopping 10%. You hear that? 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. And my friends, that's not hype. That's fact. From big names like Mattel and Gymshark to folks just getting their hustle off the ground, Shopify's got their back. I mean, you want a gorgeous online store? Shopify's got hundreds of sleek, ready-to-go templates that make you look like a design god. AI tools? Yeah, they've got those too. Writing your podcast descriptions, jazzing up your images, maybe even making you sound smarter than you are. I mean, not naming names. And you need a marketing squad? Shopify's built-in tools let you hit email, Instagram, TikTok, wherever your customers are scrolling or doom scrolling. And listen, Shopify handles it all. Inventory, returns, international shipping. I mean, they are the ride or die business partner that you never knew you needed. So if you got a big idea or even a little one and you're ready to turn that dream into a reality, head over to shopify.com/beat. That's shopify.com/beat to start your $1 per month trial today. That's Shopify, shopify.com/beat.
Welcome back to Political Beatdown. Shout out to our sponsors. During the break, I got a beatdown from my soda can. This is probably a sign not to drink soda. So I drop it, Cohen, on the floor right here, and then it explodes all over my face. So I'm like, what do I do? So here's what it looks like. So I try to grab it, and it's going all over everywhere. And I made the biggest mess of it in the world right here during the break. Literally,
that's all right.
A bigger
soda all over. Kill you, and it's all over.
The soda all over. All right, getting back into it right now. Let me just show you what Ralph Norman said, MAGA Republican leader, about costs going up. Let's play this clip.
Congressman, Americans largely disapprove of the economic policies of this president, at least right now. 55% say they disapprove of his job on the economy, 44% approve. Can you explain those numbers?
Well, I think a lot of people are seeing higher prices. Our family's in the construction business, and we get a lot of our timber from Canada and other countries. Yes, it's higher. Steel prices are up, but it's for the good of the country. And should we expect high prices for a short time? Yes, but overall, we couldn't keep going the way we were going. The cancer in this country was letting other countries rule the day and tax our products. And why should we run a deficit every month? And that's why this president is doing such a good job. And you can't go on, poll numbers vary. They come up, they go down. But the bottom line is he's doing the right thing, and it couldn't come at a better time. And things will get better here.
Congressman Ralph Norman, Republican of South Carolina. Thanks for coming on today.
Congressman Ralph Moron. I mean, Ben, this is the point I was making before, and this just absolutely proved what I was saying. 44% of America, based on this poll, approve of Trump's handling of the economy. And it scares me to think that 44% of the 360 million or so Americans, you're talking about 140 million Americans, are this stupid? Seriously. And I don't want to badmouth my fellow Americans, but seriously, 44% of America, 140 plus million Americans are this stupid, understanding that when you go to buy your coffee, what was costing you $10.99 is now $19.99, that your gasoline is not $1.98. It doesn't take Michael Cohen or Ben Meiselas. It doesn't take Midas Touch Network to turn around and to tell you that everything that you are buying right now is more expensive than what it was before. It doesn't take an idiot like this Republican from South Carolina, who actually is worth a lot of money. It doesn't take him to turn around to tell you that what the president is doing, all right, is going to help you. All right. It is not. I mean, if you don't know your own pocket, if when you go and you take a look at the receipt, when you're standing on the line at Costco or Walmart or TJ Maxx or Kroger or wherever, and it looks like another fucking mortgage, all right, you got to say to yourself, stop. Stop. I cannot back this. That doesn't mean that you're walking away from your Republican Party. I'm not telling you what party. I don't care what party. This right now is a disaster. And the fact that 44% of this country refuses to acknowledge that, and that they're going to turn around and they're just going to parrot the same stupidity over and over and over again. To what end? To the end that you end up coming back with a shopping bag from the grocery store that's 1/3 full, when before it used to be full for a few days. Now you don't even have enough to make dinner for you and the family. This is insane. I cannot understand what's wrong with people these days.
Well, they also most likely enjoy seeing migrants rounded up and put into concentration camps. They like seeing ICE patrol the streets and disappear both migrants and citizens alike if you have brown or black skin. And what you see in authoritarian regimes historically, and it's here in the United States, is as long as you have this common enemy, and in this case, it's migrants, Democrats, and particularly cities led by African Americans, those are your enemies, and people's own internal suffering is accepted as part of the broader mission, in this case, to make America the way they see America. So they have accepted that their suffering and their economic situation is part of some broader plan that they are a part of, and that's part of the rapid propaganda that is hitting them each and every day because they're worse off. They're being harmed. You know, these are people who were whining about wearing masks during COVID, who are okay with the government literally declaring martial law and sending troops into Washington, D.C., and they don't see that. I mean, these are people who go after a Dr. Fauci and go after a or go after a whoever, but are okay with Elon Musk putting chips in, like actual chips, in people's heads, or RFK Jr. saying, you know, he's working with Palantir, an AI company, to create lists on everybody in Americans' health, you know, to track everybody. It's only explainable by the cult behavior and that the cruelty that happens, they are rooting for because they view their happiness relative to the suffering of others. And if their suffering is slightly less to the suffering of others, that makes them feel good. But Cohen, you know, it's to that end, what did Donald Trump promise on day one? That he would get rid of inflation,
many things,
everything.
many things.
And now you go through the issues, and I think this is a point that gets lost in the messaging, as whether it's Democrats or whoever message this, they get into the weeds of all of these arguments. Just remember, Donald Trump promised on day one he would reduce prices, that he would end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours and end the war in Gaza in 24 hours. Now, when you ask Donald Trump today, what did you mean by that? He goes, I was joking. I was being sarcastic, and I didn't really mean that. And then if you listen to what the Trump surrogates then have to say, they then defend that and say he was joking. He was being sarcastic. To me, Democrats or people who message, whatever you want to say, once they get there, they move on, when really that's when you have them cornered. Because at that point, they're in the corner saying, we're joking, we're comedians. So my point to that is, okay, got it. So everything you say every single day is part of a stand-up comedy routine. We're a joke to you. You find all of this funny. We're going to end the war. Ha, 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 ha. You're going to lower prices. Ha, 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 ha. There's nothing that we take seriously. You have zero credibility. That's sarcasm. You have to drill down to me on that point, because it exposes the whole farce. What really they're saying is we're a bunch of frauds. We're liars. We lie. We wake up and we lie to you. And then once we're caught, we go, wasn't that funny? It's not funny. You're not comedians. Like when Don Jr. posts the photo of Donald Trump on the roof throwing green penises at WNBA players and says, this is a funny meme. I'm like, what's funny about it? Like, what? I don't see the humor of this.
I missed the humor in that one too.
What do you say?
I totally missed the humor in that one. I truly don't get any of it. You know what? I don't care, you know, whether these people have this amount of hatred and cruelty in their hearts, that, you know, it makes them feel better about themselves if somebody is being disappeared, detained, have their rights violated, and so on. At the end of the day, if you can't put food in your family's mouth, if you can't afford to have a roof over your head, if you can't afford your medication and so on, I don't care how much hatred these idiots have in their heart, they only start thinking about themselves. Because no matter how much you may hate the other guy, you hate feeling hungry. Hungry is the worst feeling that you could possibly imagine. All right. And I'm just, again, when 44% of America believe that this is fine, when you hear people turning around and saying that they would sooner vote for Vladimir Putin than a Nancy Pelosi or a Kamala Harris, I really have a real serious reflux action where I'd like to throw up on them. And to those idiots, this 44% that actually believe what the hell is happening here with tariffs and with the economy and so on, you're the people who I truly, I'm nauseated by. And so you are the recipient today of the two-finger salute. And I'm talking to the 44% that are backing this stupid tariff thing that is going to destroy and bankrupt our country. We were with over $27 trillion. We're beating every other country GDP by at least 2 times. And you're not happy? Right? That all of a sudden Trump turns us, we're dead, we were near dead, but thanks to him in the 6 months, with this tariff shit, all of a sudden now we're back and everybody is telling him how great we are, we're the best. How stupid can you be? So wake the fuck up, you fucking idiots, and you get the two-finger salute.
There you have it, Michael Cohen. You think about other things too that I want to highlight because of the platform and audience we have. Like, did everybody realize that there was a domestic terrorist attack on the United States government on Friday? Did everybody hear about that? You didn't hear about that, did you? I mean, you may have heard that there was a shooting that took place at Emory University, but do you know the backstory there? It took place at the Center for Disease Control headquarters, right there, which is right by the Emory University campus. The shooter was someone who was radicalized based on anti-vax views, based on a lot of these MAGA conspiracy theories, and went there to shoot up the entire CDC. A heroic Black police officer died defending the facility. Do we hear Donald Trump or J.D. Vance talking about the Black police officer who heroically died, the domestic terrorist attack on the CDC based on anti-vaccine? Anything about this? Bueller, hello? 500 shots, 200 buildings were hit in this situation. I mean, are we hearing that? There's a lot of protests taking place across the country.
Not even thoughts and prayers by this administration.
Nothing.
Not
no,
even
totally
a simple hands together prayer meeting. If when Kristi Noem shot her freaking dog, all of a sudden everybody thoughts and prayers for the dog. This man, this hero, not a word.
And why is Trump going after this Black mayor, that Black mayor, but not going after MAGA Mike's state in Louisiana, not going after Tommy Tuberville's state in Alabama? You know what Trump's doing for Tommy Tuberville in Alabama and states like that? Trump is trying to stop name, image, and likeness payments to college athletes, football players and basketball. I mean, all college athletes, but the highest paid college athletes are often Black college athletes in basketball and football. And they've fought, or all college athletes have fought, to be paid for name, image, and likeness payments for the labor that they put in. Donald Trump issues an executive order. Basically, it's saying college is a mess now, and that why are we paying these athletes? So if you want to talk, and then these are the people who say Mamdani's being communist when he says that there should be free busing, or you're being communist when you call for free health care, or you're being a communist when you say that rich people should be taxed fairly. What are you talking about? But to your point, Cohen, this is where a forceful message needs to counter this, and enough of the equivocating nonsense. It's when people are asked basic and direct questions, just answer the questions. Stop being scared of your own shadows. Oh, you want affordable healthcare, free healthcare? That makes you shame on you.
You want medication
you're saying what's happening in Gaza is an atrocity. That means you hate Israel. No, it doesn't. What are you talking about? What's happening in Gaza is an atrocity, and we should call it out. We can call out Hamas. We can call out the atrocities happening in Gaza. We can call out Netanyahu. Just because you call out Netanyahu doesn't make you anti-Semitic. I hate that people keep using anti-Semitism as a pretext to go after this university or that university or this lawyer. People, frankly, who are anti-Semitic, using that label to go after people and tell me that I can't criticize Netanyahu and what the hell is happening. By the way, there are millions of people in Israel and tens of thousands of people protesting in Tel Aviv against the Netanyahu regime and the government right there. And we're covering that on the Midas Touch Network. So answer the questions, be a freaking human being, and stop being a robot, and be honest, be truthful, be forceful, and fight for people. Listen to people, what they're going through. I'll leave it at that. Michael Cohen, good two-finger salute. Good show. We got into the weeds, didn't play a lot of clips, got into the weeds of things. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's YouTube channel at The Michael Cohen Show. Subscribe to Michael Cohen's Substack. Subscribe to the Midas Touch Substack. Yep. Subscribe to Mea Culpa audio podcast. We really appreciate all of your support. We're grateful for you as always. We will keep covering what corporate news is not covering. We'll cover the protests. We'll cover international protests. We'll cover we'll cover healthcare. We'll cover Bernie rallies. We'll cover the news. We'll cover everything here on the Midas Touch Network you want. Stay safe. Stay fighting. We're in this with you. We're not going anywhere. This is Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. Shout out to the Beatdown Brigaders. Shout out Midas Mighty.
Boom. Enjoy.
What if we just stay on here forever? What
I
if
don't
they
know.
just forget? The after show. Welcome to the after show, everybody.
There you go. Exactly.
Okay.